What up, fight fans? It is time for the Iman Report. It is Saturday, June 20, 2020. I hope everybody's having an excellent night. In the main event tonight, Curtis Blades defeats Alexander Drago Volkov by unanimous decision. 48-47, 49-46, 49-46. And I can't really give this fight card a grade tonight. I kind of caught it late tonight. I had to run some errands, so I missed a lot of the fight card tonight, so I'm not going to give this fight card any sort of a grade for tonight. But I did catch the main and the co-main, and Blades, Volkov was no match for Curtis Blades on the ground. He dominated him on the ground. He put a wrestling clinic on Alexander Volkov and gets the decision. Problem for Curtis Blades is it really does not get him that much closer to a title shot. The next title shot, it will be the trilogy between DC and Stipe Miocic. And then the next guy in line after that's Francis Ngannou. And if Ngannou wins the next fight, pretty much it would lock Curtis Blades out of title contention for a very long time. Curtis Blades has 2 knockout losses to Francis Ngannou, so there's no way in hell he gets a title shot if Ngannou somehow gets the belt. Still, I think if say Stipe wins the next 2 fights, he likely could draw Stipe, but it's still highly likely that Francis Ngannou will have to, Curtis Blades, brain fart there. Curtis Blades will likely have to take another fight, which will likely be for a title eliminator. Couple opportunities that could leap out at heavyweight for Curtis Blades is you could perhaps put him up against Derek Lewis should he get past Alexei Oleinik on August 8th. That is a possibility. Or Rosenstruck if he gets past Junior Dos Santos on August 15th. Those are 2 real possible opponents for Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, I am having brain fart tonight. For Curtis Blades, I've done it again. Forgive me. For Blades, he already has a victory over Oleinik. So Lewis, he's not fought Derek Lewis, so that could be a real possibility. Shall Derek Lewis get past Oleinik? Blades has a victory over Junior Dos Santos. So there's no, and his last fight was against Curtis Blades on January 25th, and that was a loss. But he's never fought Jairzinho Rosenstruck. Those 2 are scheduled to fight on August 15th. Should Rosenstruck win, Rosenstruck could certainly get an opportunity at Curtis Blades. As for Alexander Volkov, that is his 2nd loss in the last 3 fights. I kind of think maybe Drago needs a little bit of a step down in competition. His only win in the last 3 fights has been Greg Hardy on short notice. But the losses he suffered, they're not bad losses per se. Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades, but he really hasn't fought a lot of the top 10 competition besides Lewis and Blades. So for Drago, I kind of think a step down is warranted for Volkov. I suppose you could give him the loser of Dos Santos and Rosenstruck. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he was scheduled to fight Dos Santos last year, actually, and then Dos Santos had to pull because of a bacterial infection. So, say Dos Santos loses to Rosenstruck, that could be a really good fight. Or you could put him against Rosenstruck. But I think the loser of that fight is realistically what should be next for Alexander Volkov. And tonight he looked more like he's just a top 10 gatekeeper. I don't think he is a contender at this point. And Volkov is... he's 31, so there's still time, but he definitely has a ceiling, and I think his ceiling might be the top 10, maybe top 15. And I think that's about it for Volkov. I think he's nothing more than a gatekeeper. In the exciting co-main event, which could be one that could be potentially fight of the year, Josh Emmett beats Shane Burgos by unanimous decision. And after that fight, Michael Bisping was calling for an immediate rematch. No, I don't think that's the right call. What should be next for Josh Emmett? I'd say the winner of Dan Ige and Calvin Kattar. That could be what's in the future for Josh Emmett. For Shane Burgos, I think that is his first loss in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's his second loss. He lost to Calvin Kattar. But maybe we're starting to see where potentially Shane Burgos' ceiling is. He may be a top 15 fighter. He's 29, so he might be a prospect. He could be reaching his ceiling. That's another fighter right there. I just don't know if he's a contender or a gatekeeper. I'm leaning at the point where he may be reaching gatekeeper category at this point. And Emmett himself, I think Emmett is nothing more. It's trying to get into the top 10 and trying to earn, and he's definitely earned a. And yeah, that's what I think's next for Emmett's the winner of Kattar and Ige. That is. As for Burgos, he certainly belongs in the top 10, top 15. So I don't think he should deserve a big step down in competition. But maybe we're starting to see where Shane Burgos' ceiling might be at this point. As for who should be next for Burgos, I suppose you could put him with. No. Okay, maybe a step down between Grant Dawson and Nadni Armani, the loser of that fight. That might be what's next for Burgos, but at this point, the two times Burgos has faced ranked competition, he's lost. So I feel like there might be the ceiling. You might be seeing where the ceiling could be for Shane Burgos. In the fight before that, Raquel Pennington defeats Marion Renault by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. That one was kind of a snoozer. What's next for Raquel Pennington? Well, I think Saihara Eubanks could be next for Raquel Pennington. That's that's a good gatekeeper fight for Pennington. As for Marion Renault, I hate to say this since Renault is near my hometown here in Fresno. She fights out of Visalia, but I feel like Renault is I think she's near 40 at this point. Yeah, 43. She's 43, so she's had a good career. She's lost 3 in a row, unfortunately. So I kind of feel like the best thing for Marion Renault should be retirement at this point. She lost 3 in a row. She's had a good fighting career. So I think at 43, nothing left to prove at this point. Just call it a career if you're Marion Renault. In the fight before that, at welterweight, Bilal, remember the name Muhammad, beats Lyman Good 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. And this was a very close fight. If Bilal didn't get that wrestling fight and part, that could have been a 10-8 round, and that could have potentially become a draw. Bilal Muhammad is actually approaching the top 15 at welterweight. So I kind of think a ranked opponent could be in the future for Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad might be another fighter who he's only lost 3 times to ranked opponents. Two of them to ranked opponents, one to Alan Joban. So I kind of think there might be a ceiling for Bilal Muhammad, but I do think another ranked opponent could be maybe a top 15 fighter is maybe what's next for Bilal Muhammad. And the big question this time around is, can Bilal Muhammad finally get over that hump and get a win over a ranked opponent? And I think Bilal Muhammad's like right outside the rankings. Yeah. I think another fighter that's like right on the edge of the rankings who might make a lot of sense for Bilal next might be Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos. I think Eliseu might be ranked in the top 15, might be on the right on the outside. But I think Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos, that should be what's next for Bilal Muhammad. As for Lyman Good, he's got a good career coming in the UFC. He just hit a little bit of a roadblock against Bilal Muhammad. So I don't think a big step back is necessary for Bilal. I mean, for Lyman. Maybe Ismail Nardiev is what's next for Lyman Good. Or the loser of Alex Oliveira and Peter Sabota. That could certainly be in the future right there. And if it ends up being Alex Oliveira, that would be an exciting fight right there. In the first event of the main card on ESPN. Jim Miller submits Roosevelt Roberts in the first round, which could get Jim Miller 50 G's. And Jim Miller still proving that he's still got a little something left in the tank. That's 2 wins in a row for Jim Miller. He's always going to be an exciting fighter. Probably one of the better fighters to not win a title. Future Hall of Famer for sure. Okay, he's won 3 of his last 4. He lost to Holtzman in February, so 3 out of his last 4. So that is not too shabby. See where Jim Miller is ranked right now. But Miller is still a good elder statesman in the UFC, still has some fight in him. Certainly he'll never fight for a title, but he's still an entertaining fighter. And for Roosevelt Roberts, this is going to be a what did you learn from your first loss in the UFC type moment here for. So I think what's next for Jim Miller? Winner of Armand Tsarkian and Davi Ramos wouldn't be too terribly bad of an idea, or Stevie Ray. Or actually Lando Venata. That would actually be that one really intrigues me. I don't think Jim Miller's fought Lando Venata, and that could have all the works of a banger between Venata and Miller. So sign me up for that. I think I'll go Jim Miller versus Lando Venata next. As for what's next for Roosevelt Roberts, no, there's no shame losing to an experienced fighter. It's what you learned from losing to an experienced fighter is what's next for Roosevelt Roberts. Maybe you take a little bit of a break from fighting. Okay, John McDessie kind of sounds might sound right for Roosevelt Roberts. Another veteran, not a big step down. This could be a good what did you learn from your first loss type of fight for Roosevelt Roberts against John McDessie. In the prelim, the last fight of the prelim card, Bobby Green gets the win over Clay Carpenter Guida. And this was Bobby Green's first fight back from retirement. And his first win. He fought in 2019. But his first win since 2018. So what's next for Bobby Green? Another one of those fighters that will still earn a check and still will be entertaining and nothing more. Well, I think maybe throw him up against Vink Pichel. Vink Pichel. I think that should be next. Oh, excuse me. That's Roberts' second loss in the UFC. I forgot Roosevelt Roberts lost to Vink Pichel last year, so forgive me for that there. But yeah, Vink Pichel should be next for Bobby Green. As for what's next for Clay Guida, the question is how much it might be time for Clay Guida to start thinking retirement. He is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. And Guida certainly is a fan favorite, always entertaining. But he's definitely been in some wars. But I do feel like maybe it's time for. I do feel like it might be time for Clay Guida to start taking a hard look at retirement at this point in his career. He will definitely always be a good fighter. I suppose you could put him against Yancy Medeiros. You could go with that. We could throw him to Marco Madsen. That's a possible. A prospect like Mark Madsen could be another possibility. But honestly, I kind of think for Clay Guida, it's time to start taking a hard look at retirement. He could be one of those fighters. He could be a future Hall of Famer. He's definitely always been an entertaining fighter in the UFC. Been a UFC company man. But at some point, I think Guida's at the point where calling it a career may not be the worst option. In the fight before that at women's strawweight, Tecia Torres beats Brianna Van Buren 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. Brianna Van Buren now 1-1 in the UFC. For Tecia Torres, I think that's her first win. Yeah, she snaps a 4-fight losing streak. And her first win since 2017 against Michelle Watterson. Torres certainly will never win a title at 115. Torres is one of those fighters who I think where the UFC needs a women's 105 division. Torres, I think, is just too small for 115. I feel like she'd thrive a lot better at a women's 100 at atomweight division if the UFC had an atomweight division. But she does get off the schneid tonight. Gets off the schneid tonight, so I think that was a much needed win for Torres. But I wouldn't throw her against any big name competition anytime yet. I think next for her should be the winner of Verna Jandiroba and Felice Herrig. As for what's next for Brianna Van Buren, she's maybe. I suppose you could give her Michelle Watterson next. Or better yet, probably the loser of Amanda Rebus and Paige Van Zandt is probably the right step down. Or Angela Hill. I think I'll go with Angela Hill. So I think I'd probably put Brianna Van Buren against Angela Hill. And in the fight before that, at middleweight, Marc-Andre Barriault gets his first UFC win. And he needed it after going 0-3 and gets Usually 0-3 gets you cut in the UFC, but Barriel finds a way to get a win, and I think he definitely saved his job tonight, knocking out Oscar Piachota. So what's next for Marc-Andre Barriel? Probably the winner of Junyong Park and Trevin Giles should be next for Barriel. As for Oscar Piachota, that is his fourth loss in a row. So I think for Oscar Piachota, I would unplug your phone next time you get a call from the UFC. I think it's Adi. I think it's certainly a pink slip coming for Piachota. In the fight before that, Gillian Robertson beats Courtney Casey by submission in the third round. Robertson gets back in the win column. After losing to Macy Baber. Next for Robertson, probably the winner of Ariane Lipsky and Luana Carolina. That's what I think is next for Robertson. As for what's next for Courtney Casey, I think this is her first fight back at 125. Okay, she's alternated wins and losses in the last 5 fights. Okay, she's been back at. This is her second fight at flyweight. Still a serviceable fighter. Probably a fight against Macy. Macy Barber should be next for Courtney Casey. I'll go with that. And then at catch weight at 158, Justin James, in his first fight in the UFC, knocks out Frank Camacho, who misses weight by 2 pounds in the first round. That could definitely be getting Justin James 50 G's for knockout of the night. Question is, will he stay at 170 or drop down to 155? For Camacho, that is 2 losses in a row. Maybe I'll just do a little lazy matchmaking with Justin James and put him up against Austin Hubbard. As for Camacho, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. So I certainly think his next fight will likely be against a fighter who is in danger of being cut. So certainly I think Camacho could be getting near the cut line at 1-4 in his last 5 fights. We'll see. I'm going to try to pair him with another fighter that is near the cut line for Camacho. And by missing weight tonight, too, he could be in jeopardy of being cut as it is. Okay, Gabriel Benitez, that's what I think should be next for Frank Camacho. Benitez, another fighter that needs a win. Put those two together, loser goes bye-bye. In the fight before that, Lauren Murphy beats Roxanne Modafferi by unanimous decision. And Lauren Murphy approaching a title shot at women's 125 after tonight's win. Of course, Jacquet and Calvillo likely going to fight each other next. So really, who's next for Marina Moros could be next for Lauren Murphy. I wonder if those two have fought or not. So I think Marina Moros could be next for Lauren Murphy. Roxanne Modafferi, that she has alternated wins and losses in her last few fights. Modafferi's definitely a good gatekeeper at 125. I suppose you could put her up against Vivian Araujo next if they haven't fought. Let me see. Okay, those two have not fought. Book it. And in the first fight of the night, Austin Hubbard TKO's Max Roscoff fight. I think we'll do a little lazy matchmaking between him and Justin James. That should be next. Max Roscoff. What's next for him? Probably just a debutante. will conclude it for tonight's Iron Report. Everybody have a good Father's Day. Take your father to breakfast tomorrow to a meal. Enjoy life safely, social distance. But still, take your dad out to a meal tomorrow. It's Father's Day. So all the dads out there, happy Father's Day. Wear the mask. That's all I ask. Be safe. Wear the mask. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, I might be back tomorrow or Monday night to discuss the updates with COVID-19 with some of the other sports promotions. Join us on Discord. Ivan Report is on Discord now, so that I'm happy to provide that. But next Saturday night, it will be UFC on ESPN. And in a banger next Saturday night, it will be Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. This is not going to be a long fight card, though. It looks like there's only 6 fights booked for the whole event. Okay, looks like there's maybe a few more. It looks like we've got Mike Perry against Mickey Gall. Gian Vellante versus Maurice Green. Vellante making his debut at heavyweight. Luis Pena versus Karma Worthy. Felipe Lins versus Tanner Bozer. Sean Woodson versus Kyle Nelson. Jordan Griffin versus Youssef Salal. Yeah, there will be UFC. And then after that, it will be off to Fight Island and a little bit of a break until after 4th of July. Then we back on July 12th after that with a banger. Not 1, not 2, but 3 title fights on July 12th. We'll be busy here with the Iron Report. Be safe from COVID. Wear a mask. Social distance. The virus is far from over. Good night, everybody.